I want to start with a question. If you want to start your day with an activity that will make you happy, what would that be? Take a moment to think about it. You can think about it. For me, it would be running. Okay, recently, it would be talking to my wife. But running is something I would do day in and day out when I get up in the morning. So I'm a marathon runner. I love running across the globe. I love running in different countries, connect with different people. Something else that was a great adventure that I did was I took up a challenge to cycle from the north to the south of the Netherlands in a single day. 24 hours, more precisely. So cycling 310 kilometers. It was a great adventure. But when I look at it, I also love using technology to discover myself. I like to keep track of, how am I doing? Am I optimally fueled? How is my heart rate doing when I'm exercising? So I love to use technology to discover myself. But I was not always like this. When I was young, I would be classified as a sort of a fatso. I would like to think that I was not a couch potato, but I think I was nowhere close to this, active. I remember one particular incident. It was a rope climbing incident. I think I was in my 5th or 6th grade. So my sports teacher had put this rope from the branch of a tree, and he was showing us how to climb and was asking all of us to climb on the rope. Some of them did it very well. Some of them took their time and could do it. And for me, in that setting, I couldn't. I tried and tried and tried, and I simply couldn't. And then he made a remark, that's why it's of no use being a fat person. So that remark stuck with me, but I'm pretty sure it was meant in the best intention that, you have to keep working. But from there, and from where I'm right now, in terms of how active I am, it's been a journey of self-discovery and transformation. And what has enabled me to get here is something I called as an endurance mindset. So, what is an endurance mindset? It is something, it's an attitude, it's a mindset, it's a way of thinking that lets you get to a long-term goal, not the short-term goal, a long-term goal with some perseverance, right? Some resilience. So that's what is an endurance mindset. And why do you need it and how do you get it? I'll be taking from my own journey of an endurance sport. But once again, I use the example of an endurance sport. But what I want you to look at is the endurance mindset, all right? So my journey into this begins in Europe. So I went there for my higher studies. I went to the Netherlands for my doctoral program. It's the bicycle capital of the world. I'm pretty sure some of you might know it. A fun trivia is that there are more cycles in that country than people, right? So it's a very sporty country. Something else I noticed is people are very sporty. The fitness culture is great there. You see all the time people running, cycling, doing some activity from all age groups. You would see a youngster, you would see also someone who's very active, and you speak with them and you come to find out they're 80 plus. Okay, so you have people from all walks of life all the time doing some activity, and that really inspired me. So that's how I went into running. That's how I started. I tagged along with some of my colleagues who are into running. So I started with 5 kilometer, slowly into the 5 kilometer, eased into it. Then I did a 10 kilometer, and I started feeling that I enjoyed it. It was not just physical fitness. Physical fitness was a byproduct of this. But what I realized is there were two other things with respect to running in the Netherlands. One of it is what I call the runner's high. You might have heard the term. It's a sort of a euphoric feeling when you run over a certain intensity and distance. So you get a feeling that, you're sort of immortal. That's not really true. But you get a feeling that, you can keep on running. So that's the runner's high. So that was something that, it was a great feeling. So that was one reason I wanted to continue running. The second thing was the way people supported you. So for instance, I would be running, let's say in a farmland, and someone whom I completely wouldn't know before from. So they would just wave, they would say, hi, keep going great. So they would support, they would cheer you up. So it's like they will cheer you up without even knowing you, beforehand. So that sort of connect I built with all these people, it also gave me the quality that, I could connect with random people. I could connect with strangers. So that came from here as well, where, people don't know you, but they still support you. So these two things really got me going with running. So next up, what I did is from the 10, I upped the ante a little bit. I went for a half marathon, so that's about 21 kilometers. The beautiful thing is you feel great. I was doing great. I thought I was going good as a runner. And then you have different landscapes as well. So you run on a beach, you run on a mountain, you run on a forest. So all that adds up to the beauty. So I was really getting a kick out of running, by all means. And then the next progression was to go to the full marathon. So go the full distance, which is 42.2 kilometers. A very exciting prospect. So that felt like the next logical move. I'd heard a lot about it from different people, that's the real thing. That's where you will be tested, And so I signed up for something. I trained with a colleague of mine. We trained by ourselves. So we signed up for a marathon. We went there. It was a great day, great start to the day. A lot of festival, a lot of frolic. People were again cheering. So we started the run. Sun was shining, and we started the run. First 5 kilometers, great. The target was we had to run the marathon in less than 4 hours. That we thought was a decent target for someone just easing into the marathon. First 5 kilometers, great. 10 kilometers, a lot of music, a lot of frolic, people cheering. So I was waving around to everybody as well, feeling great. 20 kilometers, feeling great. 25 kilometers, I wasn't feeling tired. I was actually feeling very excited. I was feeling very energetic. I was like pumped up by all sense, So 26, 27, 28, I started feeling a small niggle in my calf. Okay, but I thought, okay, whatever. I've not had this feeling before, so I went on. 30 kilometer, again a small niggle in my calf. I thought, okay, let's keep going. I never realized that the body is trying to tell you stop. It was giving me indications, stop. But I was like, let's keep going. And then I went around 32, 33 kilometer. What you see on the left is what you see there, but what you see on the right is how it feels like. It feels like, so I had a cramp in my calf. It feels like a huge iron fist, holding you with all the force and squeezing out your muscle, That's how it feels. So I was like completely shocked. I couldn't move, forget about running. I was down on the floor. I couldn't move. I couldn't even change my stance a little bit. It was so strong. I'd never felt something like this before in my life. That was a lesson for me. I should have at least listened to my body, but as you will see, I didn't take that lesson well. So what I thought is, I finished the marathon. I limped forward. I finished the marathon, but I went way over my time. I had set a target of 4 hours. I think I took way over 5 hours to finish it. But I was happy I finished it, but I was very sad that I couldn't reach my target. So I started reading a bit more why this happens, why you get cramps. And what you see in the picture there is when you run long, or when you do any sort of activity for a long enough time, what you see there on the photo is white patches. That's all salt. Salt patches throughout your body, okay? So in this case, forehead, so it's coming from your sweat. On your forehead, wherever you have sweaty patches, you have all this salt. So you lose a lot of salt when you do these sort of endurance activities. So I thought, okay, maybe I wasn't, hydrated enough. Maybe I should have taken some salts, some electrolytes. So I looked a bit into this. Then I thought, okay, I'll prepare for this. And I said, I want to sign up for my next marathon because I want to break that, 4-hour barrier. So I went. The next one was Rotterdam. Fantastic atmosphere. Again, it's one of the best marathons in the Netherlands. And, again, festive atmosphere, frolic. So you start great. It's a great sunny day, 5, 10, 15, cheering, waving around to everybody. There is some music. It's really a celebration. It's not just an endurance sport. It's a celebration when they do that as an event. And then 25, I was still excited, not tired. 28, again, a small niggle in my calf. I was hydrating myself regularly. I was taking electrolytes-based drink regularly, but I still felt a niggle. I thought, okay, this time I'm hydrating myself, so let's keep going. Let's keep pushing. So 30, 32, and then bam. Strong cramp again, very strong. Once again, I was immobilized, for a few moments, but I got up. I limped my way to the finish, again, well over time, So again, reflected, what is going on? In both the marathons, if you recollect, they were starting in a very sunny day. So I thought maybe it's the heat. Maybe I'm not used to training, although I am from India, I was not ready for running in this heat, so maybe I should train more in the heat. So I thought, how about choosing a marathon that comes in the winter time? That's in a colder time of the year, right? So that's what I did. I signed up for my next marathon because I really wanted to break this barrier. I wanted to finish a marathon within 4 hours. So I signed up for an event, that was happening, I think, in the winter time. It also turned out to be a rainy day. I didn't predict that. It was super cold, but I ended up running and again having my water, electrolytes, everything going well. 25, 28, again the niggle came, and again at that point a cramp, a very strong cramp. once again in this cold weather as well. And I got one more gift this time, not just the cramp. I got one more gift. When I finished the run, I just limped, finished it, and took a shower. My nipples started hurting very bad. And then I realized my nipples were bleeding. It's called a runner's nipples. What happens is when you're running, it happens when you're walking every day as well, but you don't do that for so long. Your dress is constantly, going up and down. There is a friction. There is a chafing going on for your nipples. And when it's a cold weather, the nipples become erect. So they are a soft target, and then in the cold weather, the effect is even more. So I learned a lot about my body through this journey. And then, I tried different things. I didn't want to give up. I tried different diets. I was varying my nutrients, my micronutrients, carbs, varying different terrains, running in different places, different cities, different countries. The result was the same. Very strong camps. I should have thought maybe I should give up, but I was like, I really want to break that barrier. I really want to, it's not a fantastic achievement by bigger standards, but for me, it meant a lot. It meant the whole world to me to break that, barrier. So then something else happened. In my workplace, there was an accident. So something was moving, and, it slipped and fell down. By instinct, I jumped, and I tried to hold it, only to realize it was too heavy. And in a split of a second, it fell on my foot. My foot got fractured. I almost blacked out. Someone gave me a chocolate and then took me to the hospital. I was on a wheelchair. But my colleagues were very supportive. I had to walk with crutches. But the first thing that came to my mind was, can I run again, right? That was one of the first things that came to my mind. Very supportive colleagues, but this break, right, really gave me time to think about other things in life. I focused on, being indoors because, of course, I couldn't do a lot of outdoor stuff. I was with crutches. So I started, I dribbled with music. I used to play the piano before, but I could spend some more time with it. I did electronic music. So it gave me time to think about other things in life, And one other thing also, which was a very important reason, which is why I'm standing here, was self-reflection. I reflected back. I had been in Europe for 10 years. And I was very passionate about science education in India. And, I was thinking about this for a while, and I'm like, this is the time I want to go back home. I want to come back to India and get involved with the education space there. So then I spoke with my boss. I was very uncertain what would his response be, but I told him, hey, this is my passion. This is what I want to do. I was very surprised with his response. You can take a guess. He said, Prashant, if that's your dream, if that's what you're passionate about, we would be super thrilled that you go back home and do it. That was his more or less the exact response. I was super filled with joy. It completely cleared me up, and he was super supportive. And then I had marked my date when I want to come back to India, and that gave me one final chance, one final shot to run the marathon again. So I listed down all the activities, that I had done. I listed down everything that I had done, the food I had, and the nutrients, what was I varying with all the marathons, and still why was I failing. I made a list. Then I talked with an expert. He was a runner. He was also a sports teacher in a school. He had a look at my schedule, and straight away he said, Prashant, you're training too hard. You're going very fast. You're pushing yourself too much. Relax. Take it easy. Take it slow. This was so counterintuitive to me because I thought if I want to hit a certain time frame, I should run at that target. But he said, no. Run long, run slow, and mix it up with fast intervals, but take it easy, take it slow. And that was such an incredible remark. And I made a plan. I stuck to the plan. I got out of bed whenever I was needed to, and I made it a habit to run according to the plan. Stick with it, and it involved a lot of slowing down as well. And then one more challenge. So I was ready, but there was no event happening during that time of the year. And I had one more month to go back to India. And so I decided I'll create my own marathon. So I made my own route from my city to a nearby city and coming back. That was 42 kilometers. And then, fortunately, I had a colleague of mine who was willing to bicycle along with me, through the whole run. So I was not alone. I had him for support. So we started the run, a cold weather again, excited, 5, 10, 15, the same story. But I was very nervous this time, way more than usual, because this was my last shot, I thought, in the Netherlands, right? So 20, 25, 28, we were on the way back. No niggles yet. 30, 32, 33. Small niggles in my, calf. But I kept going. Maybe I thought it was also my mind playing tricks. 35, 37, 38, I was into the final 5 kilometers. Now I knew one thing for sure, that even if I get a cramp now, I'll end up getting my personal best. So that was very clear to me. So 35, 37, 38, 40, 41, 42, and 42.2. And I did it, and I did it in 3 hours, 45 minutes, okay? So I was on top of the world. If you could imagine, I would have been on top of the Mount Everest. I was on top of the world. I was feeling so euphoric, something that I was working towards for so long. It took me so many attempts, and to finally get it right and to be able to do it was such a great feeling. And it would be unfair not to thank, all those who had been part of my journey. I had to thank every single one of them, and the feeling lasted for a few more days. The next month, I took a flight. I came back to India. In India, I still run. I run marathons. There are different challenges here. The weather is a challenge, sometimes the traffic, the pollution sometimes. Then you have these friends as well on the street. They're very lovely friends, but when you're running, you got to be a bit careful with them. So yeah, exactly. They get a bit excited, I guess. So people keep asking me, why do you do this? Are you crazy? Is it just for fitness you do this? Like I said, I don't look at it just as an endurance sport. It's an endurance mindset. And two things that it has helped me build is resilience building and optimism. I get a positive attitude towards things in life because I know that every failure, if you want to call it that, is an opportunity to learn something. So that gives a positive attitude. So you can think about this. These two traits are my personal gains from this endurance mindset. You can think how it would resonate with you if you want to build on these traits, right? How would it relate with your everyday life? So how do you do it? You can pick an endurance sport and practice for that. But if you don't want to, we can distill, from the endurance sport. So you set long-term goals, not short-term goals. Long-term goals you set. I still have a goal to do the Boston Marathon. To qualify for that, I have to run the marathon in close to 3 hours. But that's my goal. I'm working towards it. Celebrate small achievements, even if it's failure. So this was in Antwerp, in Belgium. Again, I cramped. Again, I didn't achieve my target time. But after the run, I had an ice cream. I just had a moment off, and I was celebrating with myself. I had a great time. But here is the most important tip, which I learned, and which is what we have to really reimagine, right? We have been told, work hard, work persistently, but work hard, train all the time. So it's a very simple tip. All you need to do is show up and go easy. Show up, that's all it takes, and go easy. You don't have to go hard all the time. Go easy, but show up, do it consistently. And that will enable you to, discover yourself. Thank you.